Hello, Ken. Welcome to the Tank Museum. Just a bit on your date of birth, please.
23/9/21.
Okay, and where were you born?
Bath.
Bath. And what was your family background?
Family background.
What did your father do?
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt 1 second?
Yeah.
Did you want to be able to record your questions, or are we going to treat it as a sort of, hopefully Ken will just run away and keep going?
Yeah.
Because I'm not recording your questions, and
Yeah.
they'll just appear in the background slide.
Okay.
If you want to record your questions, you can, but I just need to get it.
One thing to be aware of.
I don't think we need my questions.
It usually works better if we don't record
Yeah,
the questions.
I don't think we need the questions.
Ken, he's wearing hearing aids. He's hearing
He's wearing okay, so I'll shout a little bit more.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I won't bother about recording this. So you turn
Okay,
it
again.
on.
So,
Turn that off.
We're still
right. Just your family background. What did your parents do? What did your father do?
My father was a bookmaker.
Okay. And did you have any brothers and sisters?
I had one brother and one sister.
And what did you want to do when you left school? What trade did you want to get a career? Or did you go to sea?
When I left school, I went and I joined the Merchant Navy. This idea that I wanted to see the world. I was very young, but I left school, and I was mad on ships. So I was reading literature and everything, and then I decided that, probably as I was, I could go to sea. So I packed myself off and I went to Southampton. I walked to the dock gates, and they said, "What do you want?" I said, "I just want to see this ship, the Arlanza." So they said, "Okay, you leave that bag here, you collect it. When you come back, we'll give it to you back." So I went on and I went to the ship, the Arlanza, at the bottom of the gangway, and I asked somebody, "Where do you get a job on this sort of thing?" And they said, "Go away, go away." And I kept on, and then they said, right, they took me to the shore superintendent, and he questioned me about certain things, you know, obviously age and all this sort of thing, and you know, why do you want to come here? Eventually, after some while, he agreed to give me a job. So he said to me at the time, he wrote out on the paper there instructions to the second steward on the Arlanza. He said to me, "You go there tomorrow morning with this." And I went tomorrow morning with this. And then I was interviewed, and I was told what my jobs would be, which were quite menial: cleaning brass portholes, maybe carrying, and this sort of thing, which I accepted. Oh, then they said about a uniform. So I managed to that. I had, you know, some money in that. So I bought a uniform from a second-hand shop in Southampton, and then reported, and I sailed away on the Arlanza to South America. I think my designation was something like page boy.
And how long did you spend in the Merchant Navy?
Quite some time. I did a number of trips on there, and then I went on the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth, and then for some reason, I don't know, I decided that I come back to Bath. So I then, with a relative of mine, I talked, and I ended up managing a public house, the Berkeley Arms in Walcott, and for a while, and then they transferred me, and I was in another pub there for a while, and then I came back to sea again. I decided, so I shipped it a while. Then that time I suddenly thought, well, this is, you know, getting nowhere. So I joined the army, 1938, and I joined the army, and I enjoyed it.
And Did you plan on joining one of the cavalry regiments at that time?
I went and I was in the 47th Royal Dragoon Guards in my first regiment. Later I was in the 1420th King's Hussars. From there, sort of dodging it by, I was then suddenly drafted, and I first went to India with the regiment. And then from there, I mean, it's that's about. And then of course, at that time, then I was in the army, and they decided that I'd be better off if I went abroad. So they sent me abroad. The first trip was to Iraq, Baghdad.
Yeah. When you were with 14th, 20th in India,
Yes.
were you operating light tanks?
Tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was one of the crew,
Yes.
light tanks.
And what role? Were you a gunner?
Driver
Cipher.
at that time.
Yeah.
Previously, though, I'd been trained as a mechanic, but then when I got to India, I was listed as such.
Yeah. And then you obviously go to you're posted to Iraq.
Yes, Iraq, and we had small troubles there.
Yeah. Did you use Stuart tanks?
No.
No.
We done those later. The fast tank.
Yeah.
We called them honeys.
Yeah. Called them honeys. And what did you think of them? What did you think of those tanks? Did you think they
At
were
the
good?
time, we thought very good indeed, because they were very fast, very nifty. But they had certain faults that we overlooked. But the setup was quite good as far as I was concerned. You know, with the light tanks and the submachine guns on there and this sort of thing. They had some peculiarities, though, factual. Down the centre of the tank, there was a prop shaft. They had a terrible problem, certain people, these prop shafts were snapping off at the wrong time. I can remember that, very much so.
And which squadron were you in at this time?
B Squadron.
B squadron. And if you remember the troop as well?
Your
troop number?
I can't not. But I was, my job was a driver, and so I went from there. I can't remember. I'll tell you later. But I can't remember the first troop I was in, but it was probably B Squadron, first troop, probably.
And can you remember your first action? Did you your first combat action?
Let me see. Well, actually, when they come to this, first of all, I'm just trying to remember my member, but I was then, a member of the troop and driver. We had all sorts of, funny occasions.
Did you fight against some of the Persian army?
Yes,
Yes.
we did.
Yeah.
The first really section was we fought the Persian, the Irani army, who were north of us with the Russians. We did, and with also, I do remember that it was my vehicle broke down. I was left on the road initially, so I managed, with I had a chap with me, a radio operator. We managed with a local restaurant, I suppose if you would call it that, for supplies. And then after, it must have been about a fortnight or so, the regiment sent back a LAD to recover our tank and take me back to the regiment.
And what were the conditions like in Iraq?
Iraq.
Yeah, what were the conditions like for you as the men? You know, how did you find the conditions? When it was it difficult conditions?
Definitely difficult conditions.
Hot,
But
flies?
hot, and also actually they dumped the first posting we had. They dumped us in a sort of a grove, and they from there, well, all sorts of unpleasantness. Put it that way. It was not happy times, and we at that time. Well, I think that is it. It wasn't happy times at that time.
And did you operate? Did you get new tanks? Did you operate any of the Grants?
Did
you operate any of the Grant tanks?
Yes, I was on Grants at one time.
And what did you think of those tanks?
Very good, because we were very happy about that, especially the gun mounting on the right side. We were very happy with the Grant tanks. Previous to that, we'd had short experience on the Honeys, as I call them, and they were good, but they're very fast. And then we had trouble with the prop shafts.
And so you're operating Grants, and then towards the end of your time in Iraq and Palestine, you get Shermans.
Yes, we had Shermans.
And
Yeah.
what did you think of those?
Quite good.
Yeah.
Quite good.
And you were still a driver at this time?
No, I was a troop commander. So, with
And what were your duties as troop commander?
My duty was, to do as I was told and take any actions accordingly, and certainly disciplines opposite to men. We were all disciplined properly. And also, of course, we had, in those earlier days, we had all sorts of problems. But they mostly, above me, it was just get on with your work. Then I think the first really fighting that I had was at Al Alamein. We were originally in Egypt at the barracks, and suddenly we were moved, and we took part in what was then Alamein. That, of course, was horrendous, but it was so active, so much noise, gunfire, so much movement. So Alamein. From Alamein there, I had some experiences, and that was we had. At that time, the Greek government decided to go on refusing to leave Egypt and go back to Greece. And so they were split on this. Well, we were sent there to control to pacify people. So eventually, they sorted it out. The trouble was that the Greeks that were living in Egypt, they wanted to stay, but the Greek government wanted them to go and fight. So it was just, eventually, they all got put in a cage, and that was it.
So, after the fighting had finished in North Africa,
Yes.
are the 14th, 20th doing a lot of training?
Oh, we were training all the time.
And did you train with infantry units as well?
Yes, definitely.
And so you both knew what you were doing?
We knew what we were doing.
And when did you first get told you were going to Italy?
Going to Italy. That time we just previous to going to Italy, we were on water training. We were all practicing floating and in the sea and everything. And then, suddenly out of the blue, we were all up together on it and said, right, we're off, we're going to Italy. And then we troop ships, and we landed in Italy. By that time, we were very, let's say, keen, and we knew there was a war on. And that was it.
Did you have any special equipment given to you? Any special uniforms?
No.
Did you get any tank suits?
No. We, nothing special. Just the usual, tanks and that.
And were you expecting it to be mountainous?
Yeah. No. We were expecting to go ashore and go probably move to Italy, move northern Italy. But at that time, when we arrived there, the British were already in there. We were only a part of the thing. So then I think that briefly that brings us up to the Italian campaign, which was quite something. With this Italian campaign, first of all, I was drafted and went with my troop, and I'd only been there a matter of days, and I was wounded. We were in a position there, a Canadian position, but we were dug in as a small unit with, for some reason. So I was wounded at the time. Suddenly there was a bang and I was in mud. So when I came round, my chaps and that there, they wanted to get me to, a hospital or something. I refused. So a little while I held out, and then eventually they came and took me there from the medical and put me into an Italian hospital. When this explosion, I think it was more or less shrapnel and everything that they were, to dig out, and the eyes were bad, were blared. So that was it. Then from there, I rebelled because I wanted to get back to the regiment, and eventually I had to get back to on my own. I grabbed my bag and left without permission. They tried to stop me. No, I said I'm going back. So I hitchhiked up through Italy, parts of Italy, and I came to a caravan and I went in. One chap then came and arrested me, thought I was a German or something. But at any rate, they took me to the major, and I told him what I was trying to do. I said, I want to join my regiment. So anyway, for a time, he talked to me, and then he said, right. He checked on certain things. He said, I'll get you some transport. He said, your regiment's in the line waiting to go. It's the exact words. So he then came along and he took me in this vehicle, and they took me up to the camp, and I reported to the squadron, Major Man was my commanding officer. I went to him immediately and reported, and he said, are you fit? Are you well? Are you sure about all this thing? So I said, yes. Right, he said, you go over, you take over this tank with, you take over this tank from this troop. So I went up there and I saw the troop sergeant there and told him that I was, posted. And he said, I remember his words, thank God. He said, I've had enough. He said, you're welcome. Anyway, he, at the same time, he was posted and he became a bishop, the Bishop of Blackburn, because he was a little bit on the religion side as well. So that dumped me, and I was quite happy about it, incidentally. Then I was there with the regiment.
Okay.
That's the start of it.
We'll just stop there for a quick break.
Yes.
I was briefed, and I was given, the maps to study the situation and then we were in action, and I can tell you fact. First of all, we were now the regiment by that time. We had different squadrons, in different areas. Well, my area, my squadron that I was commanding, was over on the right, and there were others, sort of milling round. Anyway, just before Medicina, I was sort of waiting for it. Incidentally, all in those days, it was all in code, you know, alphabet, description, all this sort of thing. We'd had all this study. So I think I remember there. I was coming up and the commanding officer, Colonel Tilney, suddenly, I didn't know it was Colonel at the time, but I knew their tank came sweeping up the road. And as they came up the road, the commander, you know, went through the sign, "Follow me," you know, with a head sign, which I understood very well. But after that, so a lot of it happened in there that I found out after, but that's news. But that is actual fact.
Now you're still in B squadron at this time,
Yes,
and
I was a troop sergeant.
troop sergeant. Now, when did you get into a Sherman Firefly? When did you get hold of a Sherman Firefly?
At that time,
At that time, yeah.
yes.
And did you have one Sherman Firefly to a troop?
No, we had 4 tanks to a troop.
So 4 Fireflies to a
With,
troop. Yeah.
yes,
One.
but when it was complete, but I got to tell you that also there were other, you know, units and that around with the thing. But that, to me, you know, like being as I was, from that time, then we had those tanks.
And how did you find the handling of the Firefly? How did you find the tank?
Well, it was, to us, it was a tank and it was a gun and everything. I must say to it that was the time we were just going into you know, to the regiment was moving. The Gurkhas came up, and I found out since, and I got it there, that was B Squadron, the Gurkhas, and they also were carrying Gurkhas in not the tank, the sawn off ones.
The Kangaroos.
Yes, kangaroos. But this, how would you put it? Well, suddenly we were in action, and I heard various things, and then it said go, and that meant the time that the tanks of C Squadron had already moved up into you know, the road. In the meantime, I've heard all sorts of things, you know, about this situation, which I'll tell you about. But suddenly we're there, and there was a lot of shouting and everything. And Bodge Brown had led his troop there, but he came in. I've got the pictures of this actually. But he came right into tanks, and of course, you know, the Gurkha infantry. So there's the pictures to show you. There's the 2 tanks that had already been bodged, you know, knocked out, and in the list the people that have been that they've been reported back as killed, the operator and all that. I've got all this in writing. So that was well. But the big thing was it was a charge. I think personally, very indiscriminately, that anybody would decide with you know, to charge into a regiment, you know, and there's a single file. Incidentally, 2 of the tanks were knocked out there of you know, C Squadron, and the people killed. I got the names and that off there. So that was that. But that seemed to me that, well, you've got to tie in all the other people, like the Gurkhas, who'd come up with this, some carrying that. And it was reported to me only recently that 2 of the brigadiers, they were already arranged, well, they say brigadiers now, they were planning, and they did, certain of them came, wanted to come in the tanks where they. Now, there's a certain Brigadier Barker who was commanding the Gurkhas at the time. He was supposed to have been in that tank. He could have only been in the turret because the others have been knocked out. So that was one. That was the sort of big one. But after that, and we were using tanks along the line, where the Germans were still coming forward. But the war actually, that time, then it moved on, and they'd moved on. Put it this way, the army coming out, they were forwarding and getting out, and the German army and getting out of it seemed to be is what they wanted out of it.
And what was your main role as a Firefly troop? Was it to
Troop sergeant.
A troop sergeant. But what was your main role? Was it to take on German
Our
tanks?
was to fight. We went in there solely to fight the Germans. They were already come into this lead. The Germans were already there, certainly, but we had caught up with them. Put it that way. And of course, the entrenchments there, the Gurkhas and all that, they were all dug in, to canal banks. And the most horrible thing that I think I've ever seen was they were using flamethrowers, and they were, flaming the bank, and the flame was shooting up there, and all you could do is screams and terrible, terrible tragedy. I'll never forget it. Then, of course, were various things. Then, on the occasion, I suppose we were moving around. We knew there was other stuff in the area. But what happened, as far as I was concerned, I came in on the right flank, and I had the shock of my life. There was this bloody great big tank.
And this is Medicina.
This is the other. But the thing is, I was fully prepared. My troop in that day, we said about this and all this, don't do this. And they'd come up on the flank, and I immediately, gave, gunnery orders, bang, and he was hit. The tank, after all the Italians said, oh, that was a grandstand and all this. I understand it ended up in a museum in Rome. In the meantime, a couple of times, we've been back to Medicine and that. But this, I couldn't understand, and I can't understand this day how this could happen. There's this bloody great tank, and it's pointing up towards our regiment. And the thing is, I thought, God, if he'd have opened fire or something, but in any case, the regiment were also suffering because they'd had tanks knocked out.
Now,
so in any case, we did, Sergeant, I forget his name now, we had a look in the morning at this German tank, this Tiger, and all we could find there was bottles of whiskey and brandy and all this. And so we had to decide, well, it's too late, he's out. But we thought about this. Now, what could he be doing? I mean, he's facing the regiment. If he'd have been up there, he would have wiped the regiment out. That's one. And I thought, well, how is this? So otherwise, I thought he's probably broken down and he was going to scarp her. And we caught him. Incidentally, this one that I hit, this Tiger tank, he'd come up from the flank, you see. So, and he had, well, you'll see that by the drawings in that, the regiment, if they hadn't done something, they could have wiped him out.
And how far away was the Tiger tank from you?
From me?
How far away was the Tiger when you hit it?
Oh, about, I suppose, what? Let me see, I'm trying to work it out now. Well, it was a measurement, it was right on the cross, and he parked on, this, not far, but in any case, regardless of this, as soon as I saw it, I gave immediately, gunfire, bang, and this is it, and the gunner hit him. And one of the things that I must impress, that in those days, I, was when I was with the tanks and that, I had my gunner was trained, foot on the pedal, you fire, that's it. No about sizing up and, playing soldiers, you just hit. But he had the same vision as me, seeing this thing, and so he took the same action, and that was it.
And did the Tiger crew get out? Or
No.
were they were killed?
No, the next day, a friend of mine, a sergeant, we had a look what, it wasn't so badly down, but it was hold, of course, so that was, that was supposition. But apart from it was fact, there was a tank there. Incidentally, we found out after that we were very lucky because there was other Tiger tanks down there from the canal side who could have easily taken on, this thing.
Now, going to Medicina, how did you find using tanks in a built-up area? Did you have to use the infantry with you? Were they trained with you?
We in the built-up area, we mostly had Gurkhas with us. Yes, they were trained with us. But in Italy itself, you're talking now. You're involved in the, say, the second tank corps were up there. The New Zealanders were up there. The front was there. It was always, that way. Well.
What were your biggest dangers when you were in a tank in a built-up area?
What did I?
What were the worst dangers? Was it people firing from above?
Exactly. All this, all these, like, in Medicine, all that, there was everywhere. And some of these, were hanging on. Some of the peasants and that. But if we were going down there and we saw the slightest thing, we just hit it. I mean, we didn't, bother to go down and check, is he all right, is he all right? The thing is, see it and shoot it.
Did you have problems from snipers?
No. Any problem we had, we took down whole premises, with gunfire. No, anything that looked like a window out or out, shoot the bastard, finish, clear it.
And what about the Germans with the Panzerfaust, these anti-tank weapons, these rocket-fired weapons?
Well, the thing is, we, as I say, that was the only Tiger tank, but there were many German tanks there in repair bases and that side, and obviously their idea had been to, strength there.
Did you have any concerns about the German infantry with their anti-tank devices?
No, they never got close to us. They could have been the other side of the canal for that matter, but they were moving from the one side, see, the 9th German Army, and we were the other side, well, that's it.
And did you put any extra protection on your tank?
No.
Did you put no?
Not to my knowledge.
You didn't put any extra track plates?
No. Maybe people did, but we certainly didn't. We were just, we knew what we had to do, and we would not have had a lot of time. Well, we could have had the time to put the extra plates on them, but we just tanked up and that was it. And
when you were engaging the Tiger, did
yes.
you use armour-piercing, discarding sabot rounds?
Absolutely. And no bother, as I said, my instructions were fire, shoot the bastard, and that's it. And that's what they did. And in any case, I was prepared for it. I knew when I saw that, I knew what was going to happen, because we'd already, in our minds, we were loaded, and we were looking for something like that. We were very surprised to find it in that position, but we'd come round on the circle, you see.
And did you find when you fired the gun on the Firefly that you got a lot of smoke coming out the barrel, or was it hard to see? To spot
Obviously, bang, terrific noise, and that was it.
And what's it like being inside the turret when you fire? Is that because that gun is so big?
Yeah, well, the thing is that that gun at the time, was one of the things was the backfire on there, or was 11 3/4 inches recoil. So we knew all these things, but they were all new things in those days, like with the recoil and everything. But we, as a troop, were well aware, these things. And I said, I found out recently that we had the Gurkhas actually in the tank, some of them. The carriers were coming up behind barrier, which had 10 to 30, but I think I found out that the commander of the Gurkhas, I think he was a brigadier something, he had ordered and put himself in the tank. Now I don't know if he'd ordered he was in the tank, but he was certainly on the outside of the tank with most of the Gurkhas as they clambered on. But the Gurkhas, when they were, coming up to us, when the squadrons, they didn't get on the sea tanks until the fighting started, and then they just divulged.
And this is getting close to the end of the war.
Yes.
Did this affect your attitude? Did people want to sort of hold back from fighting, or did you think, we'll just get on with it?
Get on with it.
Yeah.
Get on with it, but strange enough, we didn't really get on with it, because I think that was as far as we were concerned, because that was done, and this the tank that we knocked out, it was they used it for a long time, and there's all the photographs still, and then they shipped it down to Rome for some reason, but it was well photographed in that at the time.
What was morale like in the regiment at this stage?
First class, all good soldiers.
Yeah. And were you aware that obviously the quicker you get it finished, the quicker you can go home? Was that in your minds, or?
Well, we had trouble then. You see, not serious trouble, but we had to close. They were coming from Yugoslavia and things, and the bridges and all this sort of thing. We had to watch. And incidentally, a lot of the, the Germans getting out, they had problems, with fording the rivers and all that to get their troops out. I think the main of them was the 9th German Army.
Now, have you kept in touch with your tank crew all those years?
Yes.
And
yes, I got a photograph of them and a recent one, and they were first-class people.
And what's it like being in a tank crew? What's it like working with these men? Is it like knowing them more than you know your own family?
No, everything there is in order, everything. You're there checking all the time, not, you couldn't, you'd be unwise to put certain things down, which could cause after, like shell cases and all this sort of thing. And we had a special way of, clearing your shells out over the left-hand side and all this sort of thing. And everything was, before we went into action, everything had to be checked down to make sure there's no loose things flying around.
And everyone knew their jobs on maintenance, like first parade and last parade.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
And living in the tank, was it difficult?
No, it wasn't. We were quite happy with it. We can't not living at all. But the thing is that we had, our idea was to do it this way, do it correct way. Don't take a chance. And obviously we followed orders. I mean, we were told to do something. We did it. we didn't question anything.
And does it? And how important is it to have a very good driver?
Well, very important.
You can let him put you into hold down positions and
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely, but he had certain instructions. You know, we were going in always. If we were going into action, we checked everything in this, the possibilities, the probabilities, all these sort of things. And one of the things, of course, was crew. Are they right? Are they right? Do they understand? Do they understand? And going, you know, back against there when I landed in Italy for the first time, I was unfortunate. I was posted to a hill, with my troop. So we went and we relieved their Canadians. They had already dug into this dugout, and they had their tanks up. They had 4 tanks. So we were, a captain of the regiment took us up there to relieve them. And we went up to relieve them, and first of all we found certain of the tanks wouldn't start, so we were working on that to get them going and everything. And then we in place, and suddenly I was in the mud, a mortar or something, and come home, and I was blown up. So I went. I tried very hard to do something, but I couldn't. So eventually, anyway, I got to the hospital, and then I rejoined the regiment from the hospital. I walked out, you know, of my own. I think that. But one thing I must say, and all agrees to this, when we were coming home, we'd had quite a long time, you know, in the deserts and everything. And I was told, given instructions, right, get your men ready, we're going. This was down in Pompeii, you know, so what is it? What is it? Marvelous. So we all, you know, got down there. They put us in trucks. We came to the airport, and what we saw there, Lancaster bombers. And wow, we're going home in Lancaster bombers. And a lot of us, we were shattered because we'd had enough. At any rate, they loaded us up in these Lancaster bombers, wonderful. I even remember the pilot. He was a 22-year-old New Zealander, and he and it was, the bombs were all the end where they'd done a lot of work already. But I think that's one of the things in my life. That was a wonderful thing.
And did you keep the same crew all the time in Italy, or did any of the crew members change? In your team?
No, we had we had virtually the same crew, but see, after when we really got knocked, you know, when we advanced in that, well, then it was sort of all over the place. But I was thinking, the chap that that handed over to me, he was a Bishop of Blackburn he became, you know, a very religious man. And I thought, you know, deeply about this at the time, but I thought, well, that's it, that's my job, I got to do it and I'll do it. And I did.
Now, some of the 14th, 20th dismounted and engaged the enemy on foot. Were you aware of this, and was that something that...
No, I wasn't aware of this, but I should think that any foot soldier at the time that was swarming with Gurkhas everywhere. And so I would think if it was any of our chaps, well, it could have happened, but I doubt it very much.
And then your own tank, did it have a name?
Yeah, Gerald. And I'll tell you why I had the name the Gerald, because that's G is the letter, the first alphabet of my son. And and then the tanks, was it? G, Gerald.
And did you keep the same tank? Did you lose one, or did you keep the same one?
No, in my troop, we were all right. We were all right. The tanks that were lost mainly were C Squadron, and that was initially, you know, on enter, and two of them were caught fire and were blown up. That was before the actual attack.
And was it possible to recover these tanks back, or were they just completely knocked
Oh
out?
no, they would have been recovered. I mean, you know, or something. They would have used them for something.
And did the men have concerns about being in a reconditioned tank? Did you think, oh, this is, you know, this has had problems before, it's been knocked out before?
No, I don't think so. I think the thing was the men that I met, they were keen, they would have a go, they were sensible, and they listened to what they were told. We followed everything, instructions fully, and everything, refueling and all this, all done properly in a way. Track tensions, they were all trained people, very trained people. And that's one thing I always remain. I'm very lucky in this respect, not only in the 1420th, but in the Tank Corps.
And what do you think is the most important thing for a tank versus tank combat? Is it to hit first?
Hit first, no doubt at all. And I've already told you it was hit first all the time. When I was in the older day, foot pedal. My gunner there, and I was always taught in this sort of thing, fire first and after. As a matter of fact, I did, make a mistake once just before Medicina. We were going up to approach, and I looked and I saw a tank barrel coming out what I thought was a barn or something. So I didn't think of it very much. I gave the gunner full instructions and he hit it, bang, and then we carried on.
And were the Germans good at hiding? Did they hide in things like barns? Did they hide in haystacks, that type of stuff?
Well, no, I think that they were more outward than this because they were everywhere in the Medicina and around there in the villages and that. They were, living it up. There were no sort of snipers or anything, not to our, in the buildings, yes. I mean, out the windows and that. And actually, as a matter of fact, unfortunately, I think there were probably some of the local, Italians that were taking pot shots.
Now, before you go into Medicina, did you know about the tigers being in the vicinity? Did you know there were tigers there?
No, not until after. But I was always aware that, as I told you, that when we were moving, we were ready. Everything, we had everything, tidied down, all tidied, and as I tell you, the crew and most of them, they were sensible people, and they listened.
And were you communicating all the time with the Gurkhas?
Yes.
Around you?
Yes, we had our, yes, too. But when I say all the time, yes, most of the time, but basically, yes. I mean, we knew that the Gurkhas would follow us up, and that was B Squadron, the Gurkhas. They were already almost moving before us. Previous before that, they'd been doing a bit of shooting up in the properties, which I think were probably partisans.
And so, had you trained with the Gurkhas?
No.
Beforehand?
No, only we had not trained with the Gurkhas, but so in that when we were ready to go, we knew that the Gurkhas were coming with us. They did their own training, and as I say, when we started to move, a lot of them were already in their transports. And the mystery one I still can't find out yet was how this commander of the Gurkhas could be in a tank. But I was told, and probably they're quite right, that he was liaison, because the tank that he was captained at that time by Captain Heath. So they may have been talking something. And Well, it isn't a very large space between their takeoff point and our tanks. But see, where the tanks came in, you know, it's a road and it's necked like that. You've got to come in there to go that.
Now, and when you're going into the streets of Medellin,
Yes.
did the Gurkhas advance in front of your tanks?
No. After that, they came in and they with the, you know, shooting up. As soon as they done their clearing up, they didn't come after the tank. At that time, we were there, and we were doing our own thing. Probably it's. I don't think we were ever ordered, you know, after that to take action. In any case, you see, with the couple burning in this already, you know, and in flames, very little anybody could do.
And after actions, did you have debriefings?
No, not proper debriefings. We were just told, you know, like amongst ourselves, right, good show, lad, and now let's get on with it. Because of course the fighting went on heavily around there, around the canal, canal, with the Germans. I mean, the Germans were dug in there and this, but the Gurkhas had then got up there and they were in the banks as well. And as I tell you, one of the most horrifying things I've seen in my life, they started to use a flamethrower. And they were flaming at the bank, and the screams were horrible to hear, and you could see the flame coming out, you know, the bank. Terrible, terrible.
And when you were attacking in Medicina, what were the Italians, the local people there? Where were they? Had they moved away, or were they hiding in the cellars?
No, they didn't know. They ran. Because in any case, if they'd have been in the cellar by that time, once we got on the level, the Gurkhas would have sorted that one out and shot him. I don't think they were the Italians. The partisans were very true to us in any case. So.
And how did you find the Italians were to you? The Italian people, how did they react to you?
To us,
yeah.
Wonderfully. Wonderfully, they acted very well indeed. And well, since then, I've been back there quite a few times, and they are, well, they're clever, I think.
And they put on a big. You've just been back for an anniversary. They
yes,
put on a big,
and yeah, and the day is wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, have you got any other questions? Yes.
You've got here, I think.
The noises. Ken, that's superb. We've got some superb. That's a superb talk you've just given.
Yeah. Right. Well, as I say, that's it. I'm available, and I'm very impressed that somebody should take all this. You know.
Well, we've got some really good, great stuff.
Absolutely.
Something back, the regiment joined 43 Gurkha Lorry Brigade,
Yes.
which takes Gibraltar, which you referred to, with commanding. But that wasn't ready until about February time. So any pre-training that they might have done.
Just having some time to do it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think so. I just put it on the floor so it doesn't fall off.
Yeah.
Frozen to the ground, it couldn't move. You know, it was that sort of intense curve.
I'm going to stop recording. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.